Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today, bankrupt once again by Jake and Nick.
What's going on, y'all?
Howdy.
Is that a challenge, Nick?
We've been over this.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Today's matchup is me.
Okay, that was a direct challenge.
I'm not going to do this on the recording. We're going to let it go. Today's me versus Nick. Red, Yellow, Syn versus AoD. Don't about the flipping of Z cards. We were just joking around there. Nick just got his Z deck shuffled afterwards. All right. There's buttons down below. There's links in the description. Click them. They may help you out and help us out. All right, let's get into the game. So this weekend I wasn't really planning on staying. I was only here for like one match to make sure we had something to record the cameras with and whatnot before I passed it off. But I was able to stay at least for one round to get at least a match in. And since I knew I wasn't coming, I just brought AoD out. I'm really curious how it kind of contended with the current decks. And conveniently enough, I got paired up with one of the decks that's kind of perceived as one of the more meta decks. Even though it is a yellow-red take on it. But without...
Perceived.
I mean, red's doing pretty hot, but you're running the red-yellow variant because the changes, it benefits... I mean, you were already running that beforehand, as we explained in your profile, which dropped...
yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Or no, 2 days ago. And, but yeah, so you doing your thing, looking for Dragon Balls. One was in your life, which is very convenient for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I want my life to be lower, and now that I'm running Beer's Ball in the main board, I want to take my own life. So I have more ways to do that now in this list. As you can see, I'm running the testing the opposition, which is there. I have the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta in my Z deck, so I have that way. And Beer's Ball, of course, to get me down to 3, so I can Z Awaken on my terms. And here I am just casually drawing 5 new cards. And getting my 6th.
No big deal.
It's amazing. It's a really good way to start. I remember when we were playing, I asked you, like, are you going to hold off to turn 2 to awaken, or use turn 1? And you do awaken on turn 1, and I think your reasoning is because then I'm forced to combo a card if I want to get the leader hit through.
Exactly. Having that defense against AoD is really nice, especially when all of your stuff is 15Ks, possibly 20Ks. It makes it easier on me defensively, so I don't have to use most of my hand to stay alive. I can just survive naturally.
That's interesting, because I think I would just, no matter what happened as far as Dragon Balls, it would awaken on my turn 2. So it's interesting that you chose like a different path, and you thought about the more like defensive applications, where my mind would go like, I'd rather have 3 energy on turn 2 than 2 energy on turn 1. But it looks like you're more worried about like the pressure from the early game mattering later on, where I wouldn't really consider that. So it's just interesting.
I will say this, with you going first, it could have benefited you more holding off, because I'm only really going to get one swing on my turn 1 of AoD. But if this was turn 2, like if I went first and you went second, then Awakening would make more sense for you to do it. Because then if I want the later swing to hit you, I do have to do something. But after that, I'm able to just go into potentially the other cards just as easy.
So my thought process behind it, since I'm pretty versed in aggro, and I've played this matchup quite often, not necessarily with Syn, but I've played against AoD quite often because Bancroft brings it every now and then. It benefits me earlier to not take as much damage, just to make your pressure pieces make you work for it even more, especially when I don't have to do anything in order to stay alive. Just being on the awakened side means if you want this 1 damage to go through, you'd have to combo. So in my mind, me holding on, me being more defensive in this early game is more beneficial to me and waste less resources that could come in potential handy in the late game.
Yeah. And for those of you who are curious and don't possibly realize the thought process I had here, I chose not to take any of my life with my leader effect or that extra card, because Syn can go off pretty quickly on turn 2. And I just wanted to make sure I had the life there to be taken, instead of having to potentially take 1 and then go down to 5, and then him swinging a double strike at my 5 life, forcing it to either go down to 3 life or having to combo up, you know?
Yeah, and here we have the classic turn 2 play for Syn going into the Dread Destroyer. Unfortunately, I didn't have the haze in hand to give it crit, but you did draw a super combo on your first swing, so I think you probably would have defended if I did drop a crit on that. So it kind of behooved me to make it that way, just to bring you down more on life.
And truth be told, there's times where I saw certain cards that I wanted to have, but I intentionally grabbed the super combo if I saw it because I'm not using it to play it. You're not gonna do a lot of counter plays against me. It's mainly meant for just to get out of those big strikes a lot easier.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why not having the haze kind of benefited me in this case, because even though you took the cards to hand, you still took the damage without thinking about, not really giving it a second thought, which ultimately helps me in the long run. Because if I can take you down lower on my terms, it feels like I'm in more control of the game, so I'm more in a more comfortable position, even though I might not be 100%. Because on my offensive turns and your defensive turns, you didn't really spend most of your energy, so it kind of had me worried and stuff like this. Because right now it's my turn, or
It's my turn right now. I'm searching the turtle
Yeah.
leader. I will end up playing one more card and swing with it. The thought process was, I mean, you can establish a triple striker very easily next turn. You still have cards you can keep playing. You can neg cards to get benefit effects off of. And I was like, I can't go all aggro on you because I won't survive. You have plenty of life. You have plenty of cards in your hand right now. I will not survive if I go all aggro. I would tap myself out and leave myself open. So the thought process was, I'm just gonna play AoD a little bit different this time, mix it up, and just hold back some. And maybe that would trip you up a little bit, kind of confuse you. Like, this isn't how Bancroft normally plays it. But the idea, like I said, is to make sure I can survive into another turn and then go for the game.
It's interesting how both of these aggressive decks are worried about the other player's aggression, and thus it's extending the game, just not by, floodgates or anything, but just the way the players are piloting the deck. And speaking on what we were talking about earlier here, um, at this stage, had Nick not awakened on turn 1, on that last attack, he would have been making the decision of whether or not to go to 3. And there he was easily just able to go ahead and pick up a life without really thinking about it and go to 4. So even though his playline was like different than what I thought was correct, it looks like it's turning out to be more correct in this matchup.
So the way I see it with the two aggro matchups, at least like this, since Syn lost its major floodgate with Violent Rays, and half a Bancroft deck is 20Ks, essentially this game is just going to come down to who can clap back the hardest. Since both of our decks can recur pretty easily and can play stuff for cheap, if not free, it's essentially going to come down to who's going to overextend and who's going to make the one mistake and who's going to capitalize on it.
Because right there, I could have played potentially 1 to 2 more cards, but I was able to use the leader's ability, the free play card. I had an overwhelm. And for those who are curious, on the Broly effect, I chose to discard a Champa because the other card was the Bardock overwhelm card. So I knew I could gain more resources by playing that card than hanging it onto a card that costs 1 to give double strike to. And it gave me an extra swing onto Nick. It gave me 2 extra cards to my hand. So yeah. And now here I'm really just waiting for Nick to play his big boy and just be able to respond to that. And so I'm trying not to use any energy currently.
Yeah, and here we go. I'm dropping the Omega. And Bancroft's reading the effect just to make sure he knows exactly what it does. One of the downsides of Syn is it doesn't really have much control over barrier cards. It can neg the board pretty readily. It's just you can't get around barrier. There's some side tech that I'd like to put in my board that I didn't really bring one this night, so it didn't really benefit me. But there's a couple tech pieces that you can do to run to ignore barrier.
Is the Gohan Videl yellow leader required or just red yellow?
I think it has to be a yellow leader. I've never really run that card, but I was thinking more of like concentrated destruction.
Oh yeah.
And for the activate battle, one card that I really like is Weed Bag. Just because it beans your leader and eggs something -5, ignoring barrier. So a really good hit to cards like your Bobbity that's just sitting there, just doing nothing.
It's Corin's secret medicine. I'll have you know.
We all know what really is the medicine. It's the boof. It's the Zaza.
So here I was able to not only petrify your triple striker, but I also Android 13 your other card. Now you still get the draw on per its auto, but I prevent you from playing and getting another swing off it, and it allows me to establish a card during your turn instead. And now you can't activate Syn's ability because its skills are currently turned off until the end of my turn. At least the big boy Syn.
Yeah, and since the Syn itself is a 30k potentially skillless card sitting on the board, you don't. AoD doesn't really have a way to remove a card that high of power unless you're going into like the Vegeta unison. So I felt safe enough it just sitting there doing nothing.
And you did leave yourself an energy up, looks like.
Yeah, but Syn these days doesn't really do much with the one energy anymore. I mean, I believe I do have Beerus Ball in hand, so just thinking of the right time to play it's kind of hard considering pretty much everything he plays is 15,000 power, so the best thing would probably be, I don't know, maybe Garlic Jr. just to stop him.
Yeah, or Turles, because it's got barrier, and it's like annoying to deal with once it's on the table.
But it does have unique as well, so since one's already established here, it's he can't put another one on. So
in this game,
and there we're just re-going over the petrification, just making sure you can't attack, can't block, can't activate skills. So Nick could not do the activate battle part.
Right. Petrification's got that unique wording where the card that it targets can't activate skills. It doesn't like become a skillless card like something like Final Flash would turn it into. And Petrification will actually even stop like pending autos and things like that. It's just a really unique negate overall.
Yeah, so here I believe we are. It might be.
We called Jimmy over. Just because you want to give it barrier.
Yeah, because I do have the Oceanus to give it barrier, just to protect it, just in case. Now, granted, the SS3 Vegeta Unison does ignore barrier, but still, there could be the off chance that you might be warping it with max power Kamehameha or something that I haven't seen so far. But having the ability to Z Awaken now puts me at 20k, so it helps me get over your 15k swings. So now you have to really rely on your 20ks and higher if you want to do more damage.
The defensive Z Awaken has been one of my favorite plays in Red Syn. It just kind of throws off your opponent's math for the rest of the turn. And should things get a little bit wonky, you can always drop another Omega and then maybe use the activate battle to try and get out of some trouble.
Exactly.
Oh wait, that's an activate main, right? On the dragon, or is it main battle?
For the Z leader?
Yeah, to play the free dragon.
It's activate main.
Yeah, so you couldn't do it during the battle step, but on the crackback you get a free dragon.
So I pass with 3 open energy. And just for clarification, I have, I think, in my hand 8 cards. Of those 8 cards, 2 of them are negates, 3 of them were Android 13s. There was a super combo card there, and I want to say a Garlic Jr. Like it was around those numbers right there. I could have played a card, swung, comboed one card up, but Nick also had a pretty decent size hand. And the thought process here was that as long as I could survive this turn on Nick's, I'm going to crack back on the following turn, and I don't think he could win then. So it just breaks down to what's in his hand compared to what's in my hand and how this turn goes.
Yeah, and he immediately petrifies the Omega, which is, I think the right choice. Now its skills are blank, so I have no way of getting rid of his skills or getting rid of stuff on his field. And you were also reading the Hey Shenron to see if I can give myself crit on the leader. And it only works on battle cards, so it's a double strike to face, but it's potentially. But
And here you're popping my token. I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to play another card. Not a problem. And I'll just negate that one. So I've taken care of, I've negated 3 of the attacks so far. You've not tapped the energy yet. And my hand's getting to a point where I feel I'm getting a bit worried. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, he's already established another big boy. I should be good here, depending on what he has. Like, he might play a bunch of little guys. And from there, that's not a problem. I have cards that could stop them from coming to play, make him discard a card, or just be able to combo off very, from here to there.
So in my mind, I was worried about another petrification. Since he spent 2 of them already, most decks don't go 3 with petrification just because it's a pretty hefty investment. But since you played Garlic Jr., I was also worried if there was any other negates, and by the end I just said fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's just drop a sneaker rare.
So truth be told, I do play 2 in the main board, 1 in the side, and I did side in a 3rd petrification for this matchup.
At worst, well, I guess if he petrifies it, you can't do it. But at worst, if you get garlic, you get to blow up the board and crit a life. So
yeah, and so here 3 life, triple striker, just going for it.
Yeah, and I didn't have at that point. I was like, "There's no way I can come out of this now." You got it. So yeah, like like Nick said, it just came down to who could do the clapback better, and you just happened to have the secret rare in your hand to be able to get that one in the end.
Just so happened. Listen to him.
I mean, come on. So, with that, thanks for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed today's matchup. Keep in mind, like I said, there's buttons down below. There's links in the description. Click them. They help you. They help us. Fun stuff. Also, if you saw, I had a really cool metal leader. Check out TCG Metals. There's some pretty cool guys over there. And, you know what? You guys can take care of this.
Come on, Slippy Pete. We got to get out of here.
Remember to read your cards. All right, remember to read your cards, know your plays, and I'm slipping out. Fluff out.